We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Quantum Spirituality right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Steve Martile, and we're going to be talking about his book today. We're also going to be talking about spirituality. He's a life coach. He started as a mechanical engineer, then became a life coach, and today he runs a marketing agency that helps entrepreneurs build their business. Steve has 1.5 million views on his YouTube channel and is known as the 7-day manifestation expert. Manifestation is something that I think is very misunderstood by many people, and they don't really actually understand that it's not just like an Amazon delivery, put out a manifestation out there and just wait for the delivery to come. It is a manifestation of how to make something happen and how to recognize it when it is happening. So let us take Steve's journey here as to how he went from mechanical engineer to spiritual coach and how we actually can tap into that manifestation. And he says we can do it in the 7 days, the 7-day manifestation experiment, and how you can create the life of your dreams. But first and foremost, folks, you've got to have a dream. You've got to know what it is you're wanting to manifest. And that's something that's really important. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
How did you go from mechanical engineer to taking this spiritual journey of manifestation?
Okay. So at the time I was working in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I had, there's like, for me, it's like there's always one of two things. Either something happens on the outside, there's something happens on the inside, and then we make a big change, right? But for me, it was something happened on the inside. There was a part of me that felt incomplete, felt empty, that felt I could be doing more and with my life. And there was another part of me that was like, let's just pay the bills. Let's just like keep, status quo. And I don't want to upset anyone. And I don't want to like trigger anyone or shake the boat. What happened was this inner part of me that was screaming inside for more eventually won.
I'm so glad. It always wins out in the end.
And it started, so this was back in 2005. It just started as like, okay, I'm going to start reading some books. And I started reading Tony Robbins and Think and Grow Rich and Unlimited Power. And I was like, oh, this is like more connected with who I believe I am. Then I started going to events, live events, and I'm meeting these people. And I'm like, oh, these people are like me. They want more to life, And so I'm like late 20s at this point, and I'm basically realizing that there's way more to life than I had been programmed to believe.
Yes.
And so fast forward a year, I finally decided, and I got this idea, whoa, maybe I could be a coach. And so I decided I'm going to go out and create my own coaching business. And I remember when I went up to the firm I was working with in Toronto, the CEO, the president at that time, and I told him what I was going to do. And I'd been blogging and writing and doing a little bit of coaching, not charging for it, but doing some coaching up to that point. He came up to me and gave me a big hug.
That is not a reaction you normally see.
Right. And I was like, and he goes to me, you know what? If you want, he goes, you can even stay on contract till you get your business up and running. And you can work like, so it was like half time. And that's what I ended up doing. And I was doing that for a little bit. And then eventually what happened, I saw the CFO saw me at one point outside of the office. And I was on the phone with a friend of mine during the work hours. And he looked at me and I got this fear of panic inside.
Right, of course.
And literally like a week later, they said, okay, your contract's up. You're going to be done in January and you've got to figure out how to start a coaching business. So I'm writing, I'm doing a bit of coaching, and I'm having fun. I'm enjoying my life, but literally did that for a year. And I wasn't making a lot of money. I think I made $12,000 the first year and it just wasn't cutting it. So what happened is that we got to a point where we had a lot of debt. Credit cards were starting to get maxed out. My wife's been supporting me basically through this time. and she's not too happy about this. And so I said to her, okay, I'm gonna get a job, but I'm not gonna go back doing something that doesn't make me happy. I want to find something that makes me happy. And I said, but I believe in this, and she knew this. I believed in this idea that there was a creator, just this greater power, and then I'm not going to put a lot of faith in it to find me this job. So what I do is I visualize in the morning, get into this state of feeling, okay, it's happened. I applied to a few jobs, but nothing happened for like 3 weeks. And we're getting to a point where I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have to ask my parents for money. We literally had nothing left. And so we're driving back to home, which is home for my wife and I from Toronto up north, which is about 4 hours north of Toronto. And when I get a call on my phone, and it's a recruiter, and it's like, this guy who's hiring for this engineering position wants to meet you on the weekend. And I'm like, okay. We hit it off. A week later, I get up an offer plus a $10,000 signing bonus.
Wow.
So it was like 35 days roughly later from the process I started. And I ended up in the interview talking to the CEO or the owner at that time. And he said to me, he goes, do you do any sales? And I go, I'd love to do sales. He goes, okay, great. So I ended up doing sales engineering. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. Mm-hmm. So I started as a life coach, and then I ended up going back to work. But long story, after a few more years of this, I was doing this job, but also doing the coaching on the side. I had been working with this gentleman from the UK whose name's Peter. And Peter had kind of gone through this phase where he played the guitar, and he had a band, and he wasn't getting gigs. And it was around November, actually right around this time of year, and it was Christmas, and the money was short. And he's just like, he kept coming and showing up to these coaching calls saying to me, like, this stuff doesn't work. And I said, okay, it seems to me that you're putting a lot of focus on the outside, and because you're focusing on the outside, you're getting more of that. Okay, so why don't we just play a game and just treat it as an experiment for the next 7 days? All I want you to do is this. And I gave him these instructions, these 3 steps. And I said, the first thing is, tell me 3 things you want to see show up in the next 7 days. He goes, okay, I want someone to buy me a pint or a beer at the pub. Number 2, I want someone to cook a meal for me. Weren't attached to who or where the beer was going to come from.
Right.
And number 3, I want to win the card game I play every Thursday with my chums. I said, okay, great. 4 days later, he emails me. The chair of a committee that he was on asked him if he wanted a beer at the pub, bought one for him. The same night he got home from the pub, his partner that he lives with cooked him dinner, and he won the card game on Thursday. In fact, he got consistently good cards all night. And so I posted this on my blog, and this is like 2011. And I posted on my blog, and it started going crazy. I had like 100 comments within like a couple months. And then a couple years later, I decided to do a video, which I called the same name as the book, 7-Day Manifestation Experiment. And it's got like 460,000 views today. And I was like, this is a book, right?
Yes.
And so the reason I didn't want it to be too attached to any sort of ideal, but I do talk about quantum entanglement in the book, and how like I've had a lot of experiences over the years, especially as working as an engineer, where I would entangle with people that were, let's just say, not the most emotionally grounded. And then that would affect me, and then affect my state of being. And I talk about, when my wife and I were in Florida last year, we went there for 7 months. We would go to the beach. You feel different at the beach. And it's like, why is that? It's because you're entangling with that location. So entangling with people, entangling with locations, it affects your state of being. Yeah. And so anyways, I talk about in the book to prove and to demonstrate the point that everything's connected, and that's why this experiment works.
Everything is connected. Everything is energy. Everything is a frequency. We are a frequency, and we need to be in flow with that frequency. And when we decide to turn the volume up on our frequency, go to a higher hertz, resonate on a different vibe, we're going to attract vibe like. And so if we want people that are more upbeat, if we want people that are more wanting to be collaborative, if we're wanting people that are more in sync with our train of thought, then we need to turn our own volume up. And, like attracts like. So if it'll never happen to me, or why is it happening to me, or, this doesn't work, well, that's what you're going to get. But when you look at it, what you feed is what's going to grow. When you look at it, I have surrendered to where it's coming from or how it's coming. All I know that is this is what I desire. And it's put out the feeling that you want, not the object of what you want. And that feeling will be matched by somebody who picks up that feeling and gives it to you. But people don't realize it's really quite simple. Just change your energy and where you put it.
It's the physical mind, right? It's like the
Yes,
physical mind gets in the way of
all
like,
the
okay,
time.
well, how is it going to show up? When is it going to show up? And it's like that then you interfere, right? The
Yeah.
physical mind interferes. And it's interesting because over the years I've seen like an evolution where like a lot of people would share like ideas on YouTube or blog posts or social media about this, and it was always about control.
Yeah.
I always felt that it was always about control, and I was like, it's not about control, it's about surrender. And
Yes.
so right, and surrender doesn't mean give up.
No, doesn't mean
Surrender
you're a victim
means
either.
right. It's like it's a form, surrender is like a form of you've put your intention out with your
Yes.
higher mind.
Hmm.
Okay, and I talk about ways to do that in the book. One of them being, meditation early in the morning when you're in the theta state and you're in that basically that state you're between worlds. You're not totally in touch with material world, but you feel like energy and space. And it's like that's the sweet spot.
Yes.
And so I talk about that. It's when you set the intention in that state, what you're basically doing is you're giving the 50 trillion cells in your body instructions of what you want it to do next. But
Yes.
then when you wake up and you go through your waking day, that's when you surrender. You don't need to know how or why.
Yeah.
The key is it's less about control and more about excitement. So where does your excitement pull you? And if your excitement pulls you in a certain direction, then you know that you're aligning with the intention.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's very simple, but a lot of us have limiting beliefs and the physical mind getting in the way of it showing up.
I always say you need to feel your thoughts. And, we think that the head is the whole intellect, but we've got to understand this is the database. The brain part of it is the mechanics of the body. This is the mechanical that gets us moving, how we can speak, talk, move, etc. And then there's the programming side of it. And you've got to, if we have a computer that's got old programming on it, it's slowing it down. It's making it obsolete. It's just getting in the way. So why are we carrying that programming? And we have to insert new programs that are more up to date with the way we feel. But we've got to remember the soul, heart, and spirit has an intellect of its own. And only when we allow that intellect to speak, it allows us to know how to feel. And then the mind knows what we need to know when we need to know it. But if you're going from the head down, then what the head does is, yes, but what if, I don't believe, and it gets in the way with the chatter and the old programming. So if we can feel, oh, I feel this vibe, oh, I feel this energy. And as you said, wake up in the morning with gratitude. I'm open and ready to receive this beautiful day. Greet it with the energy in which you want it to continue and invite others to match that energy. But that's the mindset for the soul, heart, and spirit set. And when you're all in sync with each other, then poof, you're off for a nice smooth sail.
Then it's just ease and you're just going with whatever shows up.
Yeah.
It's what I find fascinating about this whole process is that over the years I've kind of come with refining like what the word be to describe the feeling that you want to have, right? And so if gratitude's a good place to start if you're in a place of neutrality or your place of maybe things are not so hot right now. Maybe you're worrying a lot about your finances or you're worrying a lot about your spouse or you're worrying a lot about whatever it is. And so gratitude's a good place to kind of like, but the thing is that if you don't get to a new place of neutrality first, then you can't get to this positive more. So if like, let's think of it this way. If we've got 3 different vibrations or frequencies we're working on with, we've got 2 hertz, 3 hertz, and 5 hertz. Everything you dream of is at 5 hertz.
And above.
Okay. And so and above, right. So it's just about tuning into 5 hertz and above. But everything you don't want is at 2 hertz. So it's like, just go from 2 to 3 first. Just go to 2 to 3.
It's like the gear shift on your car, right?
Yeah, just a small little change. And then once you get to 3 hertz, and let's say that's a state of neutrality, you don't feel like overly enthusiastic about anything or excited about anything. You don't feel depressed either. You feel a state of neutrality. You feel like, okay, today's an okay day. Well, now you get into a state where you can set those intentions and get up to 5 hertz and above.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it's about staying there throughout the day. And it's not the easiest thing. You got to train your body to do it, but that's what the body's for. It's just an avatar. It's just a suit. It's just a casing that you use, your soul uses to create the things you want to create in this density, in this earth.
We are spiritual beings having a human existence, not the other way around. When we trust that spirit within us and let it be the driving force, let it be the generator, our body is there for us. But if we lie just on the body without the spirit, our body is always in conflict. It is always in struggle. Treat ourselves as the vehicle. As you said, get into first gear, second gear. So many people just want to get into that fourth or fifth gear and go. Well, you're missing the point of the first, second, and third gear. There is a process to life, and that is the one foot in front of the other. It makes the foundation more sturdy. It makes you more balanced. It also allows you to receive what's going on around you in that moment. You may miss all of the signs because you have leapt over into that fourth gear, foot on the pedal. I want to get to the destination without realizing the journey is where the answers are.
You know what I find really fascinating about this topic, Sarah, is like the timing of this right now. So I just read an article like 2 weeks ago that said Canadians in the last 10 years, about 20% of them have dropped off the religious bandwagon. So there was some form of religion that they were had adopted or followed or practiced, and 20% dropped out. This is all religions. And I find that fascinating because I'm like, I went to a communion, which is a Catholic ceremony for one of my nieces. And we were there and I was listening to the priest. And I've been in church in years. And I was listening to the priest and I thought, oh, he's got part of it right. But he's also got this, like, it's God is still in you, but there's also like these other characters that's like you need to come to church because you have to forgive your sins. It's like, so there's something inherently wrong with humans, and that's erroneous.
Yes.
Right? Our bodies are perfect the way they are. They can heal, they can create, they can attract or pull into existence the things that already exist that we want to create for our lives. And so anyways, the reason I brought that up is that people are generally, at least in this statistic, Canadians are dropping out of it because they're not connected to the idea anymore that,
God is within you all the time. You are part of God. You are the particle of the universe and how you've been made up. Every single thing out there has a signature. An energy signature, a particle. We are all the same. The neutrons, everything is the same. And if we actually understand that we don't need to go anywhere to ask for forgiveness or guidance, it is within us. All we need to do is be present with self, be in that silence, be in that space of nothingness, and ask your question and then allow. No, it's not going to come to you, okay, now you've got to go and do this and this and that. What you've done is you've asked the question in your presence, in your center. And now when you take that deep breath and you walk forward, the answers will be revealed. But we look outside all the time for everything. It's not on the outside. It's always on the inside. And we see the outside differently when we come from the inside out.
You nailed it. And what I find fascinating in my experience, it's like I've read about 4 or 5 books this year, but in the last 3 or 4 months, I haven't read any books. And because I'm marketing my book and I offer it to people, they always come back to me and offer me one of their books, or, and I'm like, I picked up one book and it was like, it was a fascinating book. It was the Dolores Cannon book, who's done a lot of work with like deep hypnosis and pulling out past lives from people or from other dimensions. And I thought, this is fascinating. And after about like 100 pages reading, as a 500-page book, I was like, oh, I got what I needed from the book. And then that was it. So, but you're right. Like, if I am looking for answers, the last place I want to do it with is with the physical or little mind.
Yes.
That has very little power to get the answers. It's like, if you realize that your body and the pineal gland you have is a transmitter for information, then all you need to do is get into these states of fully being in the state of what you want or want to experience or be, do, have. And then let the information come back to you. And I
Yes.
talk a little bit about that in the book, but the pineal gland is basically a transmitter. It's a piezoelectric sensor. What it does, it's either sending or receiving information, and you get all the ideas and all the answers there
Get your head
in the
out of the
spot.
way.
Yeah.
You know, and when I was coaching, I had a program called The View of Life, and it's a metaphorical journey. And it always blew people's minds at the end of it of what this journey meant and how much that they were not participating in their own existence. How much that they had switched off or put blinkers on because they were so busy chasing an illusion of what they should be or what society has dictated they're meant to be, that they were switching off from the very signs that were there all around them that will help guiding them to be who they are essentially meant to be. And we're too much in a hurry, or we're too much looking for the exterior, and without being present in our own lives and understanding that inside out journey. The answers will always be there, but they come in beautiful, obscure ways. And if we're not present, we're not going to pay attention to it. We keep thinking this an Amazon delivery. No, it isn't, right? It's not a downloadable app. It is something that when you put it out there and then you get out of your own way, obscurely it will come in the most bizarre way, but it is that way that you're meant to receive.
You know, it's fascinating was I was working with my editor on the book. Her name was Sarah as well. She's an American, and she was she's like a former version of me, an engineer. Like, she's not an engineer, but she's very technical.
Right.
And so the reason I picked her was like, if I could get her inspired to try this, then I can get anyone. Someone who's not read a lot of self-help books, not very spiritually oriented. And so we get to the end of the book. It's our last session together. And she goes, Steve, I've got to tell you something. She goes, I tried your experiment. I said, really? I said, oh, cool. She goes, yeah, what I did was I picked something I wanted to see show up. And she goes, I decided something simple that was believable to me, like a coffee. Someone would just buy me coffee. I said, okay, cool. She goes, then it was a Sunday. She'd forgotten about it and went for a hike with a friend of hers. On the way back from the hike, they ended up popping out like near a bookstore. And they went inside the bookstore. And when they went inside the bookstore, just happened to be a Starbucks there. And her friend says, did you want a coffee? And she said, sure. And then they sat down, they had the coffee. Like 4 hours later, after she had the coffee, she's like, oh, that was the thing I created.
Yes. Simple.
Totally just forgot it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. People are thinking when you're manifesting, you've got to manifest the grandiosa. No, again, you've gone, to the fifth gear. It's the simple things that build up. When you realize, love actually resonates at a 580 hertz. If we could all strive to step up into that state of love vibration and always come from the heart, and whatever we manifest or desire always comes from the heart, then that purity of that heart, of that love, is going out into the world, and then people want to match that love. And if it is something in particular that you want, they will match it with that. So everything is, as I said, is that inside out love, but what's your intent? I want a Maserati. No, it's the wrong vibration. That's your 2 vibration. Why do you want that? To show off your ego, to prove that you're something? No. When you are asking and manifesting, whom is it serving? Is it serving the greater good of you, your heart and soul? Is it serving the greater good to allow you to be in service of others?
You nailed it. And that's what I talk about. I think it's chapter 6. It's like, how do you allow things to come to you? And a good way to do that is ask yourself, will this intention benefit everyone involved?
Yes.
Like if you're looking for a job right now, or let's just say a new job position, and you're like, okay, I want to make some more money, or I want to do something that makes me happy, or that sort of thing. And then you get a job offer and it's making more money, but then you're miserable in the job, even though you're serving that company and that organization. If you feel unfulfilled, what you're doing is you're saying to the question, will this benefit everyone involved? No, it needs to benefit only one. And now you're in duality, and you can't create magic from there. You have to be back into the singularity. You have to be back in the oneness, the connectedness, right? Like you talked about the 580 hertz.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're creating from duality, you'll always get more duality.
Yeah.
Like you'll be more unfulfilled. You might have more money. And how do I know this? Because I've experienced this. I've
Right.
taken jobs for more money, being more unfulfilled, was miserable, got out, got in a job that's happy, made a little bit less money. But I was like, okay, this is the sweet spot. This is perfect. I'm making the money that I feel I'm worth. And then I also feel fulfilled. Now, if I work there for a period of time, 1, 2, 3 years, and then I'm like, I'm worth more now. Well, then I would set a new intention
Yes.
based on that new resonance, that
Desire.
new frequency, right? And then look for that position. But it's like, and then some people will say, okay, well, I just want to have all the money in the world so that I can just go to the beach. And then you go to the beach and you're doing that for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then in the
Boring.
fourth week, you're sitting there on the beach and you're like, this is amazing, but I can't find the gratitude anymore. And I feel unfulfilled. Now, again, your spirit is unfulfilled.
Yes.
So you have to constantly be asking yourself, will this benefit everyone involved?
Mm-hmm. If you take people to the beach, it will. And, I think this is something that money is important in all of our lives. Roof over the head. If we're a physical being, we need money, food, roof over the head, life in general. But I think the true enrichment and abundance is having a passion and a conviction for who you are and what you are doing, what you are sharing in the world. And that is really where the true enrichment is. And the money will come that needs to sustain you, all right, to
Yeah.
provide for you to do that. But if you're not doing something that, ask yourself this, would I do it for free? If I didn't have to earn a living, would I do this for free? I've been doing this 10.5 years. I purely do it by donation. Most of the time, it's free, right? But I'm not going to stop doing it. This is my meaningful person. This is my passion. This is being able to provide people with solutions and answers from other people's journeys to help them on their own journey. What greater gift can I give to people but those solutions? When you find something that's so meaningful, you are enriched. You are abundant.
Well, you're back in that state, that higher frequency,
Yeah.
the 580, right? It's like and then you resonate with any ideas and people that are in that state. It's
Yes.
interesting because in the last, I want to say 5, 6 months, I partnered with a client of mine. We started this other business, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I'm primarily the salesperson in this partnership, and I love doing it because I get to coach people. It's something I fell in with years ago, right? And I was like, I get to do this all the time, every day. I get to, and it's like it's interesting. I talked to a guy, David, earlier this week from Sweden, and he's going to sign up as a client. But I always ask at the end of our sessions, like, what did you find most valuable from our conversation? And he says that you actually helped me with my book, that you helped me kind of get a really clear idea what the direction the book is. You didn't talk and spew all the information you're offering. You just got to the essence of helping me. It's like, wow, when you help people, you can keep helping them. It's like,
Yes.
wow.
And the domino effect, the wonderful ripple effect, right? And it's, people kind of think sales is all about money. No, it's about relationships. And when you're coming from that coaching side of things, you are building a relationship of trust. You are hearing people as to what they really need. And very often they say, I want this. But as a coach, you're saying, really, I think this is what you're asking for. And, oh, I didn't see it that way. Because I'm so driven by the expectation on the outside, I'm not hearing what really needs to come out. And that's the benefit of being a coach who sells, because you're serving them in such a different way.
If you could, and this is for anyone who's in sales who's listening to this, if you could just show up to serve every person and just create value for every person you talk to without any attachment to getting the sale, and then let the people that align with your frequency connect, that have built the trust with you, purchase from you.
Yes.
That's selling. It's literally about vibration. It's about connecting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful exchange. And, people, I'm from, the 70s was my era. And of course, everything was about the sale, and the big push and the big this and etc. And it was gross because, people were not selling what you needed. They were selling what they were pushing. And
Yeah.
they're kind of pushing you to buy, almost guilting you to buy. And
Yeah.
half the time we end, and this is how I think a lot of materialism started happening because of clever advertising, of pushing, and people would buy just to shut people up and they end up with a whole load of garbage and being broke
Right.
because, they didn't want it in the first place.
Right.
What we understand now, and I do a great deal of many shows on business, and what I'm loving seeing in industries now, in corporations, in governments, and in just the whole life force now, it's about invest in the people and the planet resources, and the profit will come. And that it is paying attention to the person you're serving to as to what they need, not what you're selling.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, to me, soul selling is, you know, I had this one client, again, another one from Sweden, Christina. She said to me when we did our follow-up call, she said, every time I talk to you, I feel better.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's good. I'm like, I
We
don't
don't
want you
want
to
you to
feel,
feel bad.
I don't want you to feel horrible.
Right, exactly.
Um, but this had been a dream of hers for a long time to write a book, and her daughters were telling us. So she's at the right place at the right time, and we ended up working together. But it's interesting that like it is about, if you take everything you're physically doing, or if you take your thoughts, your deeds, and your emotions, and or your feelings, you take those three and you line them up. It's like if those are consistent with your excitement, then you're
Mm,
going to get more things to be excited about.
right.
And that's really what we're saying. And if you done selling, or you've done it a certain way and you don't find excitement there, then it's either that you're doing it the way you're doing it is because you don't find excitement, or it's just not your character. It's not your
Right.
innate.
Yes.
It's not who you are.
Not everybody is a salesperson. No.
No, no, for
Um,
sure.
and but we can all be motivators. And I believe that inspiration begets invitation. And when you inspire someone, you are inviting them on whatever level to participate or to look into themselves or want to be a part of it. But what you've done is you've shifted the whole perspective to wanting to do something because you've inspired them. And I find that kind of sales something, for me personally, because I don't know, I'm so, over the, pitching to me, I've been through it a lot in my life. And believe me, no, I haven't got the time of day for it anymore. But when you inspire me, and you've inspired me to the point where I really believe that it really matters to you, and I can really see how it can benefit me, then I am actually invited to want to be a part of it. And I think, one of the greatest gifts you can do is shift people's perspective to something that they see positive in their lives. And, it could be one thing. Maybe somebody reads your book and it's one thing that sticks with them, and they process that one thing. Then later on, they pick a book, because I'm a huge advocate for just what do I need to know today, and just opening up the book and reading what's in front of me. And now that's the message I need today. And, I always say a book is a gift that keeps on giving, because you'll read it in one train of thought and one mindset. You'll come back and read it from another, and you'll get something else from it. And so that's why it keeps on giving. And if we're willing to be open to learn, mostly about ourselves. The more we're willing to learn about ourselves, the beautiful flawsomeness of ourselves, the wonderful intricacies of ourselves, and just be willing to stand tall in who you are, why you are, and what you're here to do, then that essence and that vibration of you becomes so welcoming and so opening to other people, they are drawn to you.
That's an interesting point, because like when I was working as an engineer, that's what happened to me. It was like I had this internal emptiness. I bought a sports car because I'd been working in this nice paying job, and it was like I didn't feel any different. And it was
Yeah.
like, so I'm filling this hole with things, right? Like
Yes.
alcohol, sex, whatever I could fill it with. And it's like at some point I was like, I need to make a change. And
Yeah.
that was when I was like, okay, now I'm open to new information. Like you said, will be willing to learn new
Yeah.
things. Up to that point, I'd kind of figured out, I thought I'd figured out life.
Yeah.
Then I got a big surprise. It was way different than what I thought.
Well, you were in the more is more mode until, no, less is a great deal more,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
only when you've made that shift, you understand that statement.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. You know what's a quote I really like, from Daniel Brinkley. he's died 3 times. Okay, this guy, and he's come back. And I got his quote here. I'm just going to read it because once he died by lightning, and he came
Mm.
back. I can't remember the other one. It was a heart attack and something else, but he's alive now. And I was watching an episode with him on Gaia TV and with George Nori, and he says, when you come to this planet, it's like entering the Olympics. It's like getting on the Olympic team. You made it to the opportunity to this dimension we call the human experience. And I really thought about it, and I was like, what does he mean by that? And like one of the things I think he means by that is that like it's tough on this planet.
Yes.
And
Oh
the
gosh.
because it's tough to live on this planet, only the best come.
Mm.
That's what he meant by the Olympics. It's like only the best show up to the opportunity. That's why you chose to be here. That's why I chose to be here. It's like, okay, this is the opportunity. The other thing I think he talks about, and he's got a lot of experience with death, is that he says that when you die, you're going to experience the perspective of every single person that you interacted with through your entire life. It's going to fan in front of you, and then you're going to make a decision about how you did.
Right.
Right. And so I just tell people, like, do your best. Just do your best, like where you're at.
Yeah.
And the third thing I really like is that, and this is not from Daniel, but this is my own perspective, is that if this, when you come up from a dream, or you remember a dream you had last night and you wake up, you're like, oh, okay, that was just a dream. Sometimes the dream feels more real than
Oh yes.
physical waking reality, right? When we leave this, and again, this is just my take on it, my point of view. I'm not saying this is how it is, but when you leave, my belief is after you've gone through that scanning of every person that you went through, you're going to realize that this physical reality was a dream, and that the real you is this other dimension, this higher self that was playing the game in this avatar body.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be like, oh, it was all a dream.
A lesson.
So, yeah. Again, so just relax, have fun, enjoy yourself. That's what you're here to do, learn.
And it's very, very possible to go into other dimensions while in this body, and have the outer body experiences, because I'm a dimensional traveler, and it's really actually quite wonderful. We
I got
are
a
in.
question for you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Do you do it in a dream state, or do you do it in a waking state? Like a
It's dream
meditation
state and waking state. It all depends on which zone I'm in. So mostly dream state, but if I am simply like driving, my mind is in automatic and my spirit will go. And I have very distinctive memories of living elsewhere and doing things and realize it's not this lifetime. So, but I was a very sickly child growing up and spent many, long time in bed with 4 white walls. And back in those days, no TV, no iPhone, nothing like that. Just no even radio, just that. And so I had to travel in order to, because I couldn't exist in this world, so I had to travel in other worlds. And for me, the universe is the greatest peace you can have, because it is everything and nothing. It is supreme. It is enlightening, but it is peace persona. And there's really kind of really no words to truly describe it. And sometimes it's hard to come back into the body, especially a body that has a few challenges, but especially in a world that chooses anger over love. And I think if we could, each and every single, while people are busy pointing a finger at someone, there's 3 pointing back at you and saying, well, what are you going to do about it? Right? And if we could take ownership and responsibility, each and every one of us, for our own lives, our own beautiful instrument, learn how to play this instrument, find an orchestra that you can play in harmony with, that orchestra is only going to be as strong as each individual strength. And it's the coming together in harmony to resonate a symphony that really reaches out to people. But we've got to stop looking and go, it's the government's fault, it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault. Yeah, shoot is going to happen to you. But what you do with it is entirely up to you. Look at it happening for you. Where's your strength? Where's your courage? Where is your abilities? I never, I never knew I was that strong. I never knew I could do that. I never knew that life could be so good. Because I went through the process, I discovered that. So when people have stuff happen to them and they get stuck in what's happening to them, and they don't take any ownership of that journey of discovery, of self-discovery, of who they really are, what they're here to do, and become the beautiful essence of a human being that they're meant to be, they're the ones losing out. It's not anybody else's responsibility, it's yours. But there are plenty of people like yourself along the way that can help you navigate those waters into be the beautiful essence that you are.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is all about, right? It's just all about this. And it's like, I remember I was at the gym a couple days ago, and my wife's like, "How was your workout?" And I was like, "It was okay compared to the last time I did that workout the week before. But compared to April when we were skiing in Idaho, just south of you, actually, just south of you, we were in Idaho in Coeur d'Alene. I'm like, way better. That was 4 months ago, and I'm just on a whole nother level. So
Mm.
and this is just perspective. It's like, be patient, but look in bigger chunks back like
Yeah,
4 or 6 months. Don't look at like what you did last week.
right.
Maybe go back further. Get a broader perspective, like
Mm.
and then see where you end up a year from now, 10 years from now.
You could be meeting a challenge at the moment and going, oh God, this is happening all again. I'm stuck. Why me? And then just stop for a moment, take a pause, take a breath, look back to where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago. Look where you were. Would you prefer to be there? No. Look how far you have come. Look how much you've discovered about yourself. Look at how many abilities you've learned about yourself. All you are is just facing another challenge. You know you've got this. You know you've got the strength and the courage. And if you haven't got the ability right now, you know where to find it. So don't get stuck when something comes along and you think, oh, just look back, God, I've got this. I've been there. I've done it. I've got this. Give yourself a hug and a little bit of love and go, okay, let's get going.
I see the thing with us, Sarah, is that like, we've been building these internal resources for years, right?
Yes.
So it's like, of course, when something comes, I was on a podcast earlier in the week, and the gentleman said, "What's your biggest challenge you've ever had to deal with business and life?" And I said, "It's always transition.
Yeah.
Like you go from one business to another, no money's coming in for 3 months, or I go from it's always the transitions." But I said, and then there's the fear of the unknown, which comes up in those
Yes.
transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I learned to do is just like when it does come up, just realize it's just a sensation in the body, become the observer to it, and then it dissipates. And then I can go back to focusing on what I find
Yes.
exciting. The reason I bring that up is these transitions is that sometimes if you don't have the resources that you've built up internally, what you can do is just imagine, if you can, that your point of awareness, your point of observation of what we're saying right now is like a kilometer or a mile atop, basically above you. Okay, so just go straight up like a mile or a kilometer, and then look down on yourself.
Yeah.
And write down how you feel about your problems now.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll notice is it's not that big a deal.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
We've all had health challenges. I talk about mine in the last chapter of my book. We've all had money issues. Maybe everyone hasn't, but I know a lot of people can relate to that.
I would say probably 99% of the world at some point. Yeah. And there is nobody that gets unscathed in this life. We all have a challenge that's going to be presented to us, some bigger than others, some harder than others. I have a beautiful young woman, Victoria Correa from Courageous Smile. She was beaten up over 300 times by her husband while she was pregnant. The child was born with issues because of it. She has literally got mechanics in her body, wires in her body and everything, and she's just had to have a hand cut off. But she started this organization, Courageous Smile, to be that place for people who are being abused, the resources for children, parents of children with differently abled. And her now husband has started off breeding dogs for comfort. And, I look at her and I think she has every reason, if anybody has a reason to kind of give up and woe is me, but not her. She said, and he was never charged because the military protected him. So he was never charged. And for her, it's like, I'm not going to give him the power. I'm going to give myself the power. I'm going to give myself the power to be a solution for someone else so they don't have to go through this because they have the resources. And she is an incredible person. And that was her choice to do that. And really, when it comes down to it, We all have a choice. Now, if we have a challenge or being victimized or going through something painful, please go through the process. Please go through the grieving process. Please go through the recovery. That is important. You can't just band-aid and go, I'm going to be strong. No, you've got to go through that process.
Yeah.
Then decide, I've enough of this now. I'm feeling stronger. I've spent that emotion. Now it's time. 1, 2, 3, 4 gear. What can I do about it? Or what can I do now in the state of where I am now? Make that choice to feed yourself, because I know from the people I've interviewed in 10.5 years of just how strong we really are as a human race. If we decide to feed ourselves the right vibration with the right tenacity and the right self-love.
That's incredible. Courageous Smile. I'm gonna check her out.
Courageous
You
Smile,
know,
she's incredible. You'll just find her under my supporting the supporters on selfdiscoverymedia.com, and her husband, all of what she does is there.
see, someone like that, we're talking about, I was mentioning about these internal resources. I worked with this guy like 11, 12 years ago who was a financial services. I think he was in sales, but he didn't come to me for sales skills or development. He came to me because he had this innate, very disruptive fear of failure.
Mm.
And what I did was I brought him through this meditative process that I've been, like I said, I've been using for 12 years, and helped someone recover from insomnia. Like, it was a 60-minute session. She completely recovered from it. But the reason that she did, and this gentleman was able to let go of his fear of failure, is because the emotional charge is not there anymore in the body. Like, the reason we have these disruptive negative emotions in the body is because something happened on the outside, we reacted on the inside, and then we stored energy. Now, it might not have been something that happened in this lifetime. I'm not saying that, right? It could have
It could even
happened.
happen DNA to your family and you're carrying it through, right?
Right.
Everything.
But the energy's stored there.
Yeah.
So it's your job to allow it, give it some love, make peace with it so you can let it go.
Yeah.
When you do that, and this was really fascinating, this guy that I worked with 12 years ago in the financial services, he had these memories of experiences where he experienced failure. And at the end, after he had let go of it, that emotion, so he was at peace, he didn't feel like a failure anymore.
Right.
I said to him, explain the memory now. The memory completely changed.
Yes.
So the way he saw the past and the way he sees the future is completely changed. And so that's the key point, is that if you're in a state where you have a lot of emotional, you're stressed, but you've got this emotional, whatever it is, I'm not good enough, or like in this gentleman, I fear failure. If you can comes to term and make peace with it, what will happen? It will go away, and then your perception of the past and the future changes, and you're a brand new human being.
Right. A quick story about my daughter. She was about 4 or 5, and this little one was a feisty little being come day, but come night, she could not sleep on her own. She was petrified, light on or not, always ended up in bed with me. And I took her to a past life regressionist. And during that regression, we discovered that she had on 3 occasions as a child been abandoned in the dark. And this was something she was carrying forward. And she had enough memory of what she saw for me to say, that wasn't you, right? And she goes, no, that wasn't me. And I said, are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. Do you need to worry about that? No, I don't. And so she started sleeping in a room with the light on, and it was very soon after that that the lights went off and she was perfectly fine. But she was carrying this memory from a past life that wasn't hers. And very often we are carrying fears that have been imposed on us by family, by DNA, by past lives. And if we feel like, what the hell are we carrying this? Then it's time to do something about it. Seek someone out that can help you. Look at what it is, because we're carrying garbage around with us. And it's stinking. It's stinking, right? And it's like, you just let it go, let it go. And it's really, really important to actually understand that we are energy, but we're going to carry energies from past lives, from the DNA family, from even past experiences that we've forgotten, and they're going to be stored there. And if we don't release them, they become controlling over us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our perceptions, our behavior, everything. I'm going to use that, by the way. We're carrying garbage within us as a chapter for my new book.
And it stinks.
Awesome.
One of the things people don't realize The reason why we have dis-ease that leads to disease is that when we're in fear, when we're in doubt, when we're in anxiety and worry, because it's the unknown, everything's the unknown, and the unknown causes all those reactions. What happens with our bodies? We literally crunch. We block the chi, the energy in our body. Our body is 98% water. It needs to be in flow. The energy needs to be in flow. Our blood flow needs to be in flow. It has to constantly be in a perpetual motion. And if we crunch ourselves down and we block those energies, we're blocking that sort of energy going to various organs, and that's why they start breaking down. It's really important. I think the first thing you do anytime you've got an anxiety attack or you're worried about something, take the deep breath in, align your chakras, your spine. Take the deep breath in, a few good deep breaths, and just let it go and go, what do I need to know now? The only thing that's important is in the now, because the clarity is in that state of being. It's not in when you're crunched up and in anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this is like I was saying earlier, right? Just getting from these negative states or
Yeah.
these -2 hertz to
Mm,
neutrality. Just get to neutrality first, because then you can have a foundation to build some amazing things.
right.
Yeah.
The universe wants to provide for us all the time. It wants us to succeed. It wants us to thrive. It wants us to rise up to those higher frequencies. It needs us to. This planet needs us to. We have so much thunderous negativity that literally is tearing the planet apart and tearing us as a human psyche apart. We need to look at that and go, how much am I contributing to that in my own life? Am I in a state of anger or frustration or, "Urgh"? And if we are, it's the wrong energy. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to feed anything. It's not going to resolve anything. Now, something pisses you off and you're angry for a moment, spend the anger. Blah, 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 blah. Get it out of you. That's it. Now, what are you going to do about it? And not with the pitchfork or the guns or the angry words, but with what are you going to do about it? Because when you're angry about something, that means that something injustice has happened or something that is not right has happened. What are you going to do about it? But we have to decide for ourselves what we're going to feed.
One thing that I'll mention, because I've done a few of these sessions where I'm in deep trance with clients. When someone feels, and this is not all the time, but many times when I've been with someone who has anger, when you can get to a state of trance and we can go and let go of that, what happens is right below that is a fear of being safe.
Yes.
So it's like anger and then a fear of being safe. And it's like you were mentioning with your daughter, and that was the same thing with this woman that I was helping with the insomnia. She was a fear. She had a fear of being in her own body. She didn't feel
Yeah.
safe in her own body. So eventually there's layers to this, right? I had a woman in New York and we were working together, and it was like there was a fear of failure, and we kept going. It was like 6 layers, and eventually we got to the core root, and then we were let go of that, and then it unraveled the whole thing.
Right.
But I agree with you. Sometimes I get upset, and I'm like, okay, I just need to channel this in a positive way.
Right.
Go to the gym, do something constructive,
Yeah.
and then all of a
Spend the
sudden it
emotion.
dissipates.
Yeah.
Yeah, spend the
Yeah.
emotion. Yeah, yeah.
Don't
Because we
become
get caught up in it.
emotional about the emotion.
Right.
Right? Because that's what happens. People
Yeah.
get emotional about something, and instead of spending that emotion and letting it go, they keep feeding that emotion and become emotional about it. And if you really ask them, what was the root cause of this? They've probably forgotten. They're
Yeah, absolutely.
just angry,
Yeah.
right? And it's like one of the problems we have in medicine and problems that we have in society as a whole, we want to band-aid everything. We only want to look at the surface of it and not the core. It's just, what's the root cause? And when people get angry so quickly, or when people react to people in a very upset way, it is not that person. Excuse me, I have a cold, folks. It's not that person that's necessarily making you angry. They're triggering something that's within inside you that's unresolved. And this is your reaction to it, right? So you need to get down to that core of why are you reacting in this way?
And it's intentional. My
Yeah.
personal belief is intentional. It's like people show up in your life to stir up your crap
Yes.
so
Yes.
that your body is like, okay, reacting unconsciously for most people, that's fine. But if you become aware of it, what
Yes.
happens? The body's like, it's helping you release the
Yeah.
energy. Well, guess what happens when you release all these blockages and all this garbage? and then you're completely cleared of the garbage,
Yeah.
you get all this energy. All of a sudden, you get all this energy because there's no leaky faucets.
And you feel light. And you just feel really that you could spread your wings and fly because you start feeling the things around you. Like that. I have a beautiful tree at my window here, and the sunlight is reflecting on it right now. And the beautiful thing, I live in Victoria, we have a lot of wind. When you've got that wind rustling through the leaves, they're talking to you. When the water laps up against the shore, it's speaking to you. Water is a beautiful conduit. Nature is a beautiful conduit. I don't know if you've ever seen Judy Dench's um, biography, not biography, documentary on trees.
No, no.
But in one of when you look at a forest, another tree doesn't judge another tree because it's different, right? Even when a tree falls down, what happens out of it? New growth comes out of it in a different way. And if you look at the matrix, which was what they did actually with slow camera, and you see the fiber optics from each tree connecting with each other, they are
Cool.
all one huge big connection. If we could look at each other as a forest, and we're only as strong as we support each other through that matrix, and we don't give a damn if you're an a willow, or a maple, or that type of tree. That's just the beautiful diversity of it all. That's what makes the forest so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
We've stopped looking at things being different as being against you. The difference is just a beautiful note, a beautiful instrument in that orchestra that plays different music. Learn to listen instead of
yeah,
judge.
yeah. Well, I mean, every morning when I wake up after I get on my meditation, if I immediately go to my phone and I
Mm,
start for an hour
yeah,
checking emails, and I get back into the physical mind, and then it takes me out of that space of being connected to everything, get to separation again, right?
yeah,
So it's interesting how our environments are kind of conditioned to create the separation, right?
yes.
At some
And I
level.
think it's also one of the things, we talked about less is more and things are more simple. You have a simple routine that serves you to be as optimized as you can be so you can be of service to others. And when you step into this state of being, you don't need all that noise. You don't need all that stuff. You don't need all those fake people. You don't need any of that because your world just becomes smaller in a way, but larger in other ways.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Very cool.
It's a
I've
nice
really
place
enjoyed
to
this
be.
conversation.
Yeah, we've covered a lot here, which is wonderful. So you've got this book, but you're saying you've partnered with somebody else to do another business. So tell me about all these businesses that you've got going.
Awesome. Um, so the business side, we have, I'll tell you how I got involved in the business. So Travis Cody's lives in Vegas. He's married to a Canadian. I'm Canadian. Um, he actually was a client of mine about 18 months ago. I was doing some marketing for him as part of the marketing agency that I have. And we started working together, and he's doing these sales calls. And I'm realizing, I'm learning more about the publishing space as I'm getting into it. And I said to him, if you can help me with my book, I'd be happy to help you more with your business. And so that's what he did. He helped me with the book because I said I've been wanting to write this book for 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
and because since 2013 when the initial video came out, the 7-day manifestation experiment, I was like, I knew this was a book, but I just, I started, stopped at 3, 4 different times and wasn't able to really produce anything. I'd
Yeah.
written a lot of stuff, but it wasn't like, I'm like, does this make sense?
It wasn't in
so
flow.
so what I did was, he goes, okay, we had done a couple sales calls. He's not the strongest salesperson, so I said, okay, well, and I closed a few, and I said, okay, you don't have to pay me anything. I said, just help me with the book. So I started April 7th, actually. He goes, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go through this material. I said, okay, great. So I spent a couple hours. It's a Sunday evening. We're in Idaho at the time. We were skiing there. And the next morning, wake up Monday, and in 30 minutes, I write down the full outline chapter by chapter for the whole book. And I was like, I thought this was like a 50-page book. It's a 158-page book. I had no idea, right? So then for 3 weeks, I do nothing. My wife and I are basically driving back to Canada. We get back, we get settled about May 1st. Then I start pulling together the content for the book. I had some old videos from a YouTube channel. I'm transcribing those, adding it to like a Word doc. I'm pulling a couple blog posts. And then I'm basically sitting there and I have gaps in some of the content for the chapters. And I said, Travis, what do I do? And he goes, is there someone you're comfortable sharing a story or, a principle that you want to share in the book? I said, yeah, my wife. He goes, this is what I want you to do. Grab your phone, hit record and talk.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then I would record it and then transcribe it. And then I added the book. So 4 hours a week from May 1st to May 31st, I got the first draft done.
Right.
That was it. And so I had 19,000 words. I went to editing in June, and I did another 9,000 words. So it's 28,000 words. And then it got published in September. Cover design, we did a bunch of other things. And then, it's selling. It's great. It's selling like 1 to 3 books a day. And I just put up the audio book like a couple of weeks ago. But what we help clients do is that not only write the book, but publish it, self-publish it, and then market the book. And there's a lot of ways we do that. But one of the really unique ways, and I'm still at the early stages of this, Sarah, but we have, and this is through a lot of relationships that were built over years, but we have a division of the company. What they do is they take the English version of the book and they shop it out to 1,300 foreign publishers.
Uh-huh.
And then what those foreign publishers do is they come back and they say, oh, we like your book. We'll translate it on your behalf, and then we'll pay you in advance. We want 5,000 advance copies. And usually that process, and like I said, I'm just at the first month, so it's going to be a couple more months before I hear back. But I think at this point, anywhere from like 16 to 18 different publishers interested in publishing the book, translating on my behalf.
Wonderful.
And the reason it's powerful is because if you have it doesn't even have to be a topic like my book, but it could be like a business topic that's not well, let's say, represented in Japanese or, in Portuguese or, Spanish, then what happens is you're actually competing with fewer books.
Yes.
To sell that book. So, and in a lot of cases, it ends up paying for the program that we sell to clients or we offer. And it's pretty exciting because it's something that I'm really excited to see how it develops over the next year or 2 years to see like who ends up, being interested in it. But that in a nutshell is what we do.
Right. I interview a great deal of authors that are, self-published. I've actually just written my memoir. I'm in the editing stage right now
Cool.
when I have time, which of course is, of 8 shows a week. It's not always there. But my brother, who was a professional author, was editing, and then he had a heart attack. So, it's on hold at the present moment. But, I took 3 weeks off in August, and I said, no shows, not seeing family, not doing anything. And I just wrote in 66,000 words, and I just let it pour out. And now in that editing stage of, adding, removing and refining, etc. But yes, I then went out to a few various book publishers, about publishing, and it's an onslaught of, back to that sales thing. We give you this, we give you that, we give you this, we give you that. And they say, but I wanted it edited not generically. I wanted it edited within the flow of what I'm doing.
Your voice,
right?
Yeah.
My voice. I don't want my voice to be changed. Oh, that's going to be extra. Well, I don't know if we have someone who can do that. And it's like, but there is this price, that price, that price, and you just don't feel intimacy. Right? You don't feel the intimacy with it, where you feel that somebody actually, especially if you're writing things like a memoir, it's a very vulnerable thing to put out, right? And you want someone that's going to respect that. So coming from a coaching side of things to understand the process of what someone is going through, what they're putting out, but also I've not heard of any other company that I have approach that has got back to me who say, yes, we can look to doing it in other languages and putting it out there. Not one has mentioned that. So I think you will have a really good niche just on that alone of getting it out into other languages. So it is a process. It is a process of writing. There is the editing, then there's the book design, and then there's everything else that goes into it, and it can be very intimidating. And a lot of people don't get any further than just writing it because they're too intimidated on the publishing side of it. And so it's when people can help people through that, because it's like they're sharing their baby, right? So if you can help people through that, that's good. That's definitely good to have. And you obviously are still coaching. So how do people get hold of you with your coaching? What's the process that they need to go through?
I mean, I would say like you can go to my blog and freedomeducation.ca, But I would say if you want to just listen to a sample of the book, I mean, if you like what I'm sharing on this interview, I would say get the book. You can do an Audible. I think it's like $9 or something. There's a sample, 5-minute sample of it. You can listen to it. If you want to work with me personally, then yeah, I would go to Freedom Education. There's a contact form there. Two things I want to mention because I don't want you to forget, Sarah. One is I may have an editor for you, Canadian or American, that not going to be a huge budget for you if you need someone. And they're not associated with our organization. We don't have people on staff doing the editing. We help source our clients' editors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the contractors, which I think is good because I know that many of these big companies, it's just more generic. And so, you can read one book and another book and it's like, I get proposals every day for social media and it's all the same script. So we don't want the same script. We want people's voice to be heard, which is important.
Yes.
And, for people who are just at that crossroads in life, like it doesn't matter. I have the big house or the fancy car or the this and that. And I don't know how many people I've interviewed that got there. The big expensive house and car and everything else. And I have to work 18 hours a day to maintain it. I don't even have time to enjoy it.
Insane.
And they become divorced and it's like, or they get ill health. And it's like, what am I doing this for? And they give it all up and redirect their lives into a different thing. And God, now I feel rich because I'm actually living life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the important thing. So the site again is?
freedomeducation.ca, or you can just go to Amazon, buy my book. It's available in like 8 or 9 different Amazons in Europe, all over the place. I even have it available in India, Barnes & Noble, but it's 7-Day Manifestation Experiment.
Wonderful. And spell your name for the people who are listening.
Oh, right. It's Steve Martile. It's phonetically, it's Martile. So Martile.
Right. And of course, you're on LinkedIn as well. And I'm sure you're on Instagram and Facebook and all of those.
Yeah.
Okay. So, folks, manifestation is not like, I want this, give it to me. It doesn't work like that. It's about how can I be present within myself and allow my own vibration to rise up to match what I need. The universe knows what you need. You don't always know what you need. And very often it's just say, I want to feel like this. I want to feel like this. Whatever's going to make me feel like this, please show me the way. And then get out of your own way and allow yourself to pay attention to all those signs that are all around you, because they're there all the time, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We can all manifest it. It's up to us. We've got to get into the right state of being in order to make it happen. Thanks so much for sharing with us here today, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
And everyone else out there, write your book. We want people to share their stories. Your story is something that will illuminate and inspire someone else to take their own journey. This is the reason why I do the shows where people share their journey, because that inspiration begets invitation and a story. Don't think, oh, I've got nothing to say. Don't be the judge of that. We'll be the judge of that, right? Your story could just be something what somebody needs. So don't be afraid to write it. Even if it's a business manual or your life story or whatever it is, please share in any which way you can. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom, and the next show will be up in just a moment.